before you go on any trips away this year, you absolutely need to get this app. I travel all the time, and multiple times, me and the lads have been stung with massive phone bills. You think you're texting on the hotel Wi-Fi, before you know it, you get the phone bill. What was I doing? And it's not just that. Just getting signal when you're away is an absolute nightmare. And this is why I use Saily for just the price of a coffee. Saily will keep you connected wherever you are, so you don't have to hop from hotel Wi-Fi to restaurant Wi-Fi. You're literally going to have the best connection no matter where you are. And it's cheap, so you're not going to get that big phone bill. Honestly, it's a no-brainer. All you have to do is click the link in the description below, install your eSIM, and when you land, boom, you're in business. And every time I've used it, I've had a better connection in the hotel Wi-Fi. I can watch live streams. I can download movies. It's brilliant. When I went to Vegas, this was an absolute lifesaver. And the best bit is there's a 15% discount when you use my link in the description below. Even if you're not traveling till later in the year, I know you might forget. So do it now because this will come in handy. Just go to saily.com/payingame and you can get 15% off. Do it now. Don't wait until you land and then you regret not doing it in advance because this is a game changer. Welcome back to the Pain Game. Today we are talking the return of Tyson Fury, confirmed by Turkey Al Sheikh to be on Netflix April 11th. The first time in my memory that Tyson Fury has been on a non-pay-per-view event in over a decade, maybe, I don't know how long. In terms of the why, I find this really interesting because Fury's always said, like, it's not about the money, I'm a fighting man and all of that, but, like, he's got loads of money. And after losing to Alexander Usyk and getting angry at being robbed, as he claimed, and, you know, seeming to go in a huff a bit, I am fascinated as to really what is the why here? What is there left to achieve for him? What is the goal coming back?
Fury is one of the greatest businessmen in boxing. Let's just say that. This guy has played the same trick on the same gullible audience. I'm retiring. I'm back, everybody. And it's a disgrace that people keep falling for it. When he retired, I said, this ain't a retirement. This is just somebody that's leveraging. And what he does, he leverages the game. He looks at it and says, well, let me check who's going to rise up and be, box office. Who's the man that everyone wants to see? And what you're seeing in the game is it's still the same too. It's AJ, it's Tyson Fury. Usyk, with everything he's done, he should be the face, he should be the draw, but Usyk still needs a serious dance partner. Fury doesn't need the dance partner. He's going to show up and be the show. AJ's going to show up and be the show, the main attraction. Yeah. And this is where, the boxing needs Tyson Fury. And he's realized that with all this time on the sidelines, he said, someone has to pay me. And what's great about a new competitor is they're putting up the money. The Zone are not probably thrilled about this. Fury looks at the game, comes back and takes all the bread.
One thing I would say is, especially through our time of working in boxing and around boxers, one thing that's always surprised me is boxers hear and listen to a lot more of the content about them than you'd probably realise from the offset. And therefore, I think that they can check the temperature. I think that they can read the room. And I think that from a legacy perspective, of course, I'm not denying this is about money, but from that perspective, I think that Tyson Fury's probably read the room a little bit and he understands that there are a portion of boxing fans, definitely hardcore boxing fans, that would look at what's happened with the heavyweight division, what's happened with the introduction of Riyadh season, and they may potentially go, yeah, okay, Tyson Fury was the man of the 2010s or whatever, but when all the top guys started fighting each other, he wasn't really about. Because I'm not saying we haven't had top fights, but we haven't had them to the extent and as often as Riyadh season are putting them on. So I think that from that perspective, Tyson Fury might not want to miss out on the party of all these heavyweights fighting each other, and he can't really put a claim to it that he was the best in that era.
I think he really needs a win, and a big win post Usyk in order to recover some of what was lost in that Usyk fight. Because I remember prior to Usyk, the comments in my videos were like the denial that people were in that they were denouncing Usyk like he's just a jumped up middleweight, as they're repeating the Fury lines the same way they repeated Fury's lines about Anthony Joshua being a bodybuilder. Tyson Fury almost had a chokehold over his fan base and brainwashed them into just dismissing fighters without him needing to fight them. So when he did fight Usyk, it tore down a lot of the bullshit that he'd been spouting, in my opinion, and acting like these guys weren't in his league. And now that leaves questions for his fans to where is his real level then? Because you haven't fought AJ, you haven't fought Fabio Wardley, you didn't fight Joseph Parker. Like there's Zhilei Zhang. There's loads of fighters who were in his era and the new era of boxing that could have been fought by Tyson Fury, and he needs to take out at least one big one, maybe a Fabio Wardley or an Anthony Joshua, which are the two big names later this year, in order to regain some of what was lost a little bit, for him to not be the guy who, when he fought the best guy, lost and that was it. And I think that's important to his legacy and his ego. The question is, he's got to get through Makhmudov first. And as much as we all probably would sit here and go, prime Tyson Fury would dance around Makhmudov and fucking jab his head off and take up the school. We've seen Tyson Fury in the last few years get in with Francis Ngannou, get embarrassed and get dropped on his arse by a guy who'd never had a professional boxing match before. Makhmudov, while he's certainly not as naturally gifted, he is a big, strong, powerful guy, which is really all Francis Ngannou was. Now, I've got to ask you, lads, what kind of test can Makhmudov be, given that we've seen, and this is the context, a Tyson Fury in the gym looking well over 300 pounds on the way back into this fight. I know about weight loss. That guy he was heavier than me when I was at my heaviest. He must have been 23 stone plus when he was on that heavy bag. So he's not going to be the best version of Tyson Fury when he fights
Let me say this. I watched Makhmudov Dave Allen this morning again, just to give myself a reminder, a refresher, to just see where I was, right, with it. And I'm telling you now, if Fury loses to Makhmudov, he's finished, because Dave Allen, took Makhmudov into deep waters. And one thing that what I saw Dave Allen doing, he's throwing this cheeky uppercut. Really, they got close, and Makhmudov is not the best mover. Yes, he looks scary in the face, but the scariness and the boxing ability, the payout, like he's not good. Makhmudov is not a good fighter.
But neither was Ngannou officially.
No, but I think you're wrong there, Brian. I actually think that whether you can have an argument over who's the better fighter, who's the better boxer, and I'm sure there'll be very, very valid points that means that Makhmudov wins that argument. However, when we're going specifically on the career of Tyson Fury, and again, it looks like I'm making excuses for him, but when we're going on his career, I would argue that most of the guys that have had him in real trouble have done so in kind of unconventional ways. I think Deontay Wilder's very unconventional for an orthodox style fighter. I think that Ngannou was. I understand Usyk's not, and he had him in trouble. But what I'm saying is, I think that because of Makhmudov's ability to be very conventional, very textbook, as you would teach it in amateur gyms, I think that Tyson Fury is going to be able to read him a lot easier than he read Ngannou. For example, I very much doubt that Makhmudov's going to come out southpaw like Ngannou did. I just think that Ngannou has more of a surprise factor than Makhmudov, but maybe it levels out because Makhmudov is a better boxer than him.
Question for Loza. Is the fact that he's been out of the ring for so long and he obviously put a lot of weight on, and the fact that this fight isn't till April when we've known about him wanting to come back for a while, is that a sign that Fury, should be concerned about? The fact that this is clearly a weight loss camp as much as it is to get ready for a fight. Could he come in and have a similar issue that he did with Ngannou in terms of his own physicality?
I'm not worried at all, because we know Tyson Fury's not body beautiful. And if you're looking at a lot of top fighters, they don't fight that often again. Having a year out isn't a long time realistically, not with the career Tyson Fury's had. I think you needed to give yourself a rest. I think after the Usyk losses, I think mentally he needed time. And with Tyson Fury, he needs to be in the gym. He's not been a guy, yes, he's put on weight because his diet hasn't been great, but I do believe he's still been in the gym. And I think he's been really clever picking Makhmudov because he's fresh in people's mind fighting the likes of Dave Allen. He's a scary looking guy, but like we say, he's a very limited fighter. Tyson's great with guys with slow feet. I think stylistically he's made for Tyson. I really think he's been clever.
Yeah.
He gets rounds. What we see in this fight is Tyson Fury will get the rounds, but I think Tyson Fury's still heavy-handed. So we might even see an early knockout. What Tyson Fury doesn't actually want, he actually needs to dust the cobwebs off and feel a bit more confident. They've gone around and picked a perfect opponent. And what it really says to me, if I was Fabio Wardley, I'd be fuming because he is the lamb led to the slaughter in terms of how, from Frank Warren's mindset, Frank Warren just wants Fury to be a champion so he can make the biggest AJ fight ever. We're talking now it's a title fight because all he said is there's no way Fabio Wardley's next fight should be Tyson Fury. If I care about this champion, I should not be feeding him to probably one of the best that's mixed it in this division. But what he said is, you're not my main guy. It's kind of like how when AJ with Eddie Hearn and Dylan, I know AJ's the main guy. For Frank, Fury's the main guy, and you're just in the way. So as soon as I can get that belt back to Fury, I make a lot more money again. That's what it is.
You're saying the master plan from Frank Warren is give Fury a nice warm-up, get him in with Fabio, take the belt, make the AJ fight.
Make the AJ fight. This is the plan.
Before we move on to that then, because it does seem like that is a big part of the plan, either AJ next or Fabio then AJ. We're all saying that this is a good stylistic matchup for Tyson Fury. However, again, he has been embarrassed before. He has taken people lightly before, and he is coming off a long layoff. So what is the bare minimum that Fury needs to achieve in this fight for people to go, right, that's good enough. Now the hype for the Fabio Wardley fight or the AJ fight is high, because this is what this is about, really. It's about a stepping stone. It's about hyping up the next fight. What level of performance do we need to see? Do we need an early stoppage? What do we need?
The bare minimum for me, as someone who would be wanting Tyson Fury to do well, I think a points masterclass is the bare minimum. I don't see a world, and listen, it sounds brash, it sounds confident, especially coming off the layoff, the weight gain, all this. I don't see a world where over a 10-round fight, Makhmudov should be winning more than 2 rounds against Tyson Fury. Should be 8-2 over 10 rounds if it's a 10-rounder. If it's a 12, it should be a 10-2. It should be a whitewash from Tyson Fury, to be completely honest with you, because I think that if we look at methods of victory for Makhmudov, barring, it surviving a couple of knockdowns and going to points, I don't think any of us would think that Makhmudov has a chance of beating Tyson Fury on points. I think that we all feel that Makhmudov's chance is knocking Tyson Fury out, being a big, strong guy and using that. Therefore, if it goes to points, I want to see a whitewash on the scorecards. I want Fury to be scoring him on points.
He's going to knock him out.
Yeah, I agree. If Tyson Fury's the guy he says he is, he's got to. I mean, Makhmudov's, look at the level. Villanello absolutely boxed his head off. Yeah. And what level is he really? He's not really one of the top guys. And Tyson Fury seems to think he is. So it's got to be a clear victory for me.
How do you see him picking him apart, Loza? Like, in terms of, if you imagine this fight just quickly, like, because I do see Makhmudov being quite stiff. Do you just think he's going to light him up?
I think he's going to absolutely just pick him off, because we know Tyson's got that jittery style where he feints, and you've seen it against Dave Allen. If Dave Allen's able to land shots, Tyson Fury can with ease, in my opinion. And I think the blueprint's there. Caballel showed how to beat him. Villanello, copied that same game plan. So if Tyson Fury can't beat him comfortably, he needs to retire. It's as simple as that.
I think the Fury's game plan will be very different to Villanello and Caballel's, to be honest. Maybe a little bit more like Villanello's. I think that Tyson, I personally think this is a lead hand fight for Tyson Fury. Yeah. And what I mean by that is there's certain fights when you'll get put with an opponent and you'll go, oh, it's a tough fight. Certain fights you go, that's a feet fight. My feet will win me that fight. This is a lead hand fight. And the thing that me and you have spoke about in the past before, Brian, is Tyson Fury, whether he's still got that sort of ability to have that herky-jerky, twitchy style. Now, a lot of it comes from upper body and lateral movement. Tyson Fury can still do that. It's his feet that have slowed down. But that sort of upper body lateral movement that's going to feint and sell the feints to Makhmudov, and then Tyson Fury's lead jab, left hook as Makhmudov comes in, I think there's going to be a lot of good work done off that lead hand for Tyson Fury. And I think that with his skill set, you could kind of look at that lead hand and say you should be able to rack up the rounds and win the fight on that.
I'm telling you now, I saw Dave Allen not doing that many feints, just going for broke and throwing these massive overhands, and they were landing the uppercuts, the inside work as well. He's in a lot of trouble. We're going to see they picked it perfectly. This is what you say, Frank Warren, masterclass. Because if you're trying to sell the Netflix show, you're trying to sell, his great comeback, he's been out the ring, he's
scary
fat,
guy, scary looking.
Perfect. And then you walk in and you have this man that's cumbersome, doesn't move well. I don't know if you lot watch the Addams Family, but at Lurch, this is what I see him as. He's Lurch, bro, in the ring.
He's stiff, isn't he?
Oh my God. And he's going to light him up, knock him out.
He's got zero defense. He's got zero defense.
Yeah, you're totally right, lads. And I am trying to say it from... And look, the one thing that gives Makhmudov a hope, I guess, is he is big, he is strong, and he does hit reasonably hard. And one thing he does do is he just comes straight forward and he goes for it. And that might help him in ignoring the feints of Fury and just saying, fuck all this shit, I'm punching the fucking head off of you as quick as I can. So moving on to the plan, the master plan from Frank Warren, where KJ has insinuated that he's sort of...
yes.
Moving the chess pieces around the board in order to benefit Tyson Fury and setting Fabio Wardley up for an early failure, where Fabio Wardley has done very well at a young age with very limited experience to somehow manage to become heavyweight champion of the world. However you want to put it, yes, Usyk's our main undisputed guy. He's still got one of the belts. And some people would say, yeah, avoid Fury for as long as you can. Let Fury maybe have a few more fights, get a bit more damage. But he's ready to make that fight, it seems. Is this a mistake on Fabio Wardley's part? Should Fabio be avoiding this for a while until he's got more experience, or no?
Absolutely not. I think now's the perfect time, because if he can have, Tyson Fury's name on his resume, amazing. And now is the perfect time to do it. There's no good wait until he's gone, because I think, in a sense, some of the fresher guys coming through, the likes of Caballel, them are the more risky fights, in my opinion, stylistically. So I think he's doing the right thing. I think go for Tyson Fury. I think it'd be an amazing scalp to have on his resume.
I also think that when you go for a big name like a Tyson Fury, like an Anthony Joshua, to an extent, it's a free hit. To an extent. In the moment, it doesn't feel like that, because you get beat. Say, for example, Dillian White at Wembley gets beat. I'm sure it feels awful. But to an extent, it's a little bit of a free hit. And what I'm saying is, because they're held in such high regard because of their achievements and what they've done before, I think that how far a loss to Caballel puts you back is way more significant than how far a loss to a Tyson Fury puts you back, because people hold him at the higher echelons of the heavyweight division. And therefore, if you went in there and put up a spirited effort, a good effort against him, you'd probably be held in pretty high regard. And therefore, I think that for a Fabio Wardley, it's going to be the right time right now. There's never going to be any better time to go and do it. You're a heavyweight. Punch power is a huge thing that you rely on. You're going in there with a man who, has shown great powers of recovery, but has shown that he can be clipped, and he can be clipped by way lesser punchers than yourself. It makes complete sense to go for it now. And the opportunity to get a name like a Tyson Fury or an Anthony Joshua, a Klitschko on your resume isn't something that happens every now and again. You could box for a decade and you might never get the opportunity to have a star-studded name like that again. So you got to roll the dice.
I'm going to say this. I think he's picked, while they've set him up, I believe Fabio Wardley is being set up, but Fabio Wardley doesn't go with the game plan. He's someone that tears up the script, rips it up, and he causes problems. It will be, I think, we're looking at another fight. When we was all surprised when we saw what Dubois did to AJ? We could see this again. I think we're preparing ourselves for an insane surprise where it's going to be Joey that's going to be throwing his coat on the floor, and it's going to be we're all going to be making these expressions of, okay, you know what? Oh my God.
So on that, Fury, as he walked away from the game, allegedly walked away, well, obviously we all thought he was coming back, but he did it off the back of being beaten by arguably the greatest of all time, or at least the greatest of this era, which there is no shame in. And for that reason, he was still able to say, you heard Frank Warren say, best two heavyweights in the world, though. Best two heavyweights in the world. So he was still in that elite group. That's where he was still being spoken about. You were still able to market him in such a way. Now, for Fury's legacy and his ego, more importantly, I think it's really important that no one else beats him for the rest of his career. If Fury comes back now and he takes a loss to someone not named Alexander Usyk, so that people can then say, you were never the best. You were never the best. And that's because that's going to rewrite history then, which I think is going to be a major problem problem for his ego if that happens. I think that would be a disaster. I think it would be far better to Fury to retire officially after losing to Alexander Usyk and walk away saying, I was only beaten by one man, I was the best. Even if there's no resume, to really prove that, because he didn't fight all these other guys, he could still convince a lot of people of that, which I think was very, very important to Fury's life. I think it would be a major mistake for him to lose now. And that being said, he's going in there with a Fabio Wardley who it only takes one punch, and Anthony Joshua, it only takes one punch. It'd be very easy for things to go wrong now. Before he fights Fabio Wardley, question, what was the last good performance that Tyson Fury had, win or loss, because it could take the Usyk fights, that is good enough to beat a Fabio Wardley, in your opinion?
I think Deontay Wilder too. I think that was the best version of Tyson Fury.
Was that the last good one though?
The Alexander Usyk performances were great. Like, as much as I criticised them at the time, when you look at how good Usyk is, and you without doubt give them the most amount of trouble than any other fighter, in my opinion. So I now kind of look at them defeats a lot higher than I did at the time. So I can't say the performances were bad. Unfortunately, just was beat by a great guy. I think it's as simple as that. But unfortunately, Tyson takes it away from Usyk by not just saying I was beaten by the better guy.
What version would you pick, Joey? What would you be your version?
So the version I would pick of Tyson Fury to go in against a Fabio Wardley would potentially be a version that no longer exists. So I'm potentially looking at the first Deontay Wilder fight. I'm kind of looking at maybe Peter Fury, Ben Davison, Tyson Fury, rather than the Kronk style where he's coming forward a little bit more. However, saying that, I'm not going to come out here with my chest and say, right, the Fury that turned up against Usyk definitely beats Fabio Wardley. Here's what I'll say. Bearing in mind that I don't believe the fleet-footed Fury exists anymore, if you could give me a Fury that actually exists and I could take it into the Fabio Wardley fight and be confident, then probably that first Usyk fight, maybe even the second. Both of those versions of Fury, although the way the fight played out, because who was in front of him, it might not have looked like vintage Fury, I believe they were Tyson Fury operating at a very, very high level. So with a different style in front of him, I think that version of Tyson Fury definitely gives Fabio Wardley a lot of problems.
My worry for Fury would be, we know how mentally up and down he can be, and we've seen dramatic differences in his performances, in his body, and I can relate as someone who's gained weight, lost weight, like a motivated Fury versus an unmotivated Fury, they're two completely different people. And my only worry would be, after how badly he took that Usyk defeat, where we've seen him outside the pub and we've seen the weight gain afterwards, he must have gained about 60 pounds, actually, from the first fight all the way up to ballooning right up after the second fight. Can he ever get as motivated again after receiving back-to-back defeats against Alexander Usyk, when greatness, the ultimate greatness, is gone now? He's never ever going to be able to have that again. And once you've gone to the limit, which he must have done in order to try and beat Alexander Usyk, the way he had his hand glued to his chin the whole time, like he was operating at such a mentally intense level. I don't know if he'll be able to get motivated like that again. And so I don't know if we'll ever see again a Fury as good as the ones that fought Usyk. I don't know if he can do that.
Do you know what the difference is?
Go ahead.
He's now got Mr. Miyagi in his corner. He does karate now. I think we've got a different version of Tyson Fury.
He's
I couldn't believe it.
on. Love
but
it.
Listen, he seems to be in a good place. What I will say is, I have been enjoying seeing all the social media stuff. He seems to be happy. His mindset just seems to be completely different to the past. So I'm kind of excited about the performance. I don't know if he's just convinced me like he does every other fan, but I believe we're going to see a good version. I really do. Don't ask me why, but
I think that this feels like the start of a new journey. And I think that when you look back at the history of Tyson Fury's career and you look back at some of the quotes, he's often spoke about the fact that this isn't my era, this upcoming era. The likes of a Dubois and a Toma, these sort of guys. He even said it about fucking Joe Joyce, who's older than him probably, right? So it's what I'm saying, right? So he's constantly said that this ain't my era, right? Now what we're hearing from him is an acceptance to fight Makhmudov. I'm not saying Makhmudov's monster bollocks, but potentially if he stays true to his word, who knows, an acceptance to fight a Fabio Wardley, who you very much can say is a legit champion in this next era. And what that shows me is now your actions are going against your previous words. When you were saying that you would never dip into this era, I'll fight the guys from my era. Now you're entertaining it. That means that for me, that's a new journey. It's not you picking up where you left off. It's a new one. And inside the head of a Tyson Fury, I think that could be enough incentivization, because the actual trying to get there part, right? Whether it's a world title, whatever you're achieving, the actual trying to get there part, you never realize it in the moment. That's the fucking good part. That's the fun part. That's the part that you can stay motivated for. It's when adversity hits, as he found out against Alexander Usyk, and potentially during this run, until adversity hits, whether that's a loss or something like that, until that happens, I think he will keep motivated, and I think he will keep mentally focused.
I think you lot are falling for the smoke and mirrors of the whole game. One thing we're forgetting is the man's legs are gone. The man can't move the way he once moved. You said it yourself. If you ask for the best version of Tyson Fury, I would have to say Deontay Wilder too.
Are they gone though? Are they just not as good as before?
They're gone for Fury. They're not gone in heavyweight terms.
No, but they're gone for Fabio. That's what we're talking about, because that's the rule. For Makhmudov, I think he does that one. He don't even need the legs, as you said before. But then in this Fabio one, it is a younger fighter that is going to bring it to him, and he has to herky jerk. He has to get out of the way. He has to be wary of the big shot that Fabio's going to throw, because Fabio, while he's limited, you know one thing is the dog in him. He is going to make it a fight. He is going to be right on his chest. We're not going to see somebody that Fury will be able to get out of the way. We're getting almost like, you see with Usyk, he changed his style when he was going for him, because Usyk knew he could get to Tyson Fury. So he was a bit more patient. I don't think Fabio Wardley has patience on his side. He's going to go and attack, and he's going to go and attack early. So how are you going to keep him out? How are you going to keep him at bay? Yes, you got the jab, but I'm telling you, he has to be as sharp as ever. This is why I'm really intrigued in this fight.
You know, going into Fabio Wardley fights, the constant narrative is all about the no amateur experience, white collar fight, stuff like that. And a lot of us feel like, we should stop talking about it now. We shouldn't stop talking about it, because at some point, Fabio Wardley, people don't like me saying this, at some point, Fabio Wardley is going to get beat, and everyone is going to start drawing reference to the fact that he didn't have that amateur experience. Probably a fight where maybe he got bust up with the jab, something like that, didn't show the pedigree that you would then expect. And therefore, although it's not relevant in terms of so far, he's overcome everyone. Justice Hooney, who had amateur experience, Joseph Parker. When it eventually happens, I think that that's what everyone will look to, and I think that will be his undoing when it happens, and therefore I do think it's relevant.
With Fraser Clark, Justice Hooney, we've nearly seen it before. So the fact that he's overcome that is impressive. I do agree with what you're saying about stylistically, the best version for Fury, it's the rock, paper, scissors. It's Fabio's going to come forward like a bull, so you want to be the matador, and you want the old Fury that could dance around him, which doesn't really exist anymore to the same degree, which means that Fury, that big, strong version of Fury that we've seen in Usyk 2, is going to have to be probably likely to be the version that we see against Fabio Wardley, which means Fabio Wardley has a fucking chance, because if you're fighting fire with fire against that man, he's always got a chance. Just to move on though to Anthony Joshua, who may take that fight away from Fabio Wardley, because Eddie Hearn has been interviewed recently and said, look, I do think he's going to come back. He's obviously spent time with him, and he says, I think boxing saved him, and I think it's going to save him again. And I think that's a really great way of putting it. And I think he's going to do it in the honour of his friends, which we were all hoping for, because we don't want AJ in a bad place. We want him active. We want him out there doing what he does best and living his life to the fullest. And we could well see AJ return. Now, the problem is AJ's last fight was a Jake Paul fight, not really the warm-up for Tyson Fury, and Fury's having his warm-up. What do we do in the meantime with Anthony Joshua, lads? Is there a guy who, is there a Makhmudov for him? Is there someone he should go in there with?
There's always a Makhmudov for him. There's definitely always a Makhmudov for him. Trust me, that's the promoter's job to be able to find these guys. I could probably list about 10 of them off the top of my head. Yeah. The question is, do you do it? Do you go into that fight? Because if we take away the tragedy that's happened, which obviously gives it massive, massive context, and we actually go on the performance against Jake Paul, which again, there's always an asterisk by, very hard to judge something when the level's that low. If we go on that performance, I would probably be looking at it from my head. From my heart, I just want the Fury fight straight away. But from my head, I'd probably go, you could do with another 6-7 rounds against someone decent, against someone you're able to read a little bit more, and against someone that's a little bit more ambitious. Inevitably, that'll make you look better and help you gain confidence.
I've got a perfect opponent. Dillian White. You just go, yep, I'm telling you, the storyline's there, it works. You don't want him in trouble. We don't want a banana skin.
Dillian White's too ambitious, KG. Dillian White's way too ambitious.
That's why it's good. That's why it's good. Dillian White is not the same fighter that he ever was before. We've seen him fight against Uncle Tete and go to war. We're talking about a man that is not where Dillian is over the hill. But what they do have is the good enough storyline for, because you want to look at AJ. AJ, there's a lot wrong with AJ. We need to know if he's okay, if the injury, if he's got over certain things. If AJ goes from this to Fury, that's insane. Dillian provides enough, because you'll start to look at the other guys, Weatherspoon. You look at all the people that are there, no one is of note. But a rematch, and they've been talking about this forever. It's not going to be hard to convince Dillian to fight, because Dillian knows there's no more paydays. It makes sense.
It makes sense on a Netflix level as well, lads, because Netflix love a story, and they're apparently also doing an AJ documentary as well as a Fury documentary, which is clearly culminating in the long-term journey. With just a little bit on Netflix here, I think this is fascinating, because I noticed that Queensbury did not post out their usual Tyson Fury returns, and it wasn't the whole coordinated thing. And then Frank Warren, I think, was on TalkSport, and he was like, the ring did all that. The ring, this is all about the ring, because Frank Warren's in an exclusive deal with DAZN. Netflix are taking his main guy and being like, yeah, we'll have him. I feel like this has just blown the world of boxing open, and we're going to be the winners, but like, DAZN must be fucking pissed, right?
Eddie Hearn's ass is going. Frank Warren is worried because Zuffa's just in the game and they're throwing money around. I think they even had to match the deal for Bam Rodriguez. You got other fighters that Eddie Hearn's now talking about, he can get paid over there, but legacy. When you start hearing a promoter talking about legacy, you know he's in trouble, because that's
all they've got left to offer.
Legacy versus money. I know the one that wins most of the time, right? And this is actually going to be an interesting thing, because Jai Opetaia was the first big signing for Dana White, who's, he's got a couple of those belts at cruiserweight. He's been wanting to collect them all. Eddie couldn't manage to bring that together for him, and now he's gone to Zuffa Boxing, which apparently they're not really bothered. They're going to make their own belt. They're not bothered about those traditional belts. Dana White's mentioning, like, I'm going to be like the new Don King in America. I'm making the biggest fucking fight. When Dana White starts talking like that, it makes me go, ooh. Like, I kind of predicted this a while ago, but when he says things like that, Dana doesn't really say things that he can't deliver on. He's actually a cards close to his chest kind of guy. So if he's talking like that, then we hear the rumors. Alexander Usyk in talks with Dana White.
Wow.
I'm like, if you come out the gate and you signed Alexander Usyk, the best fighter in the world, well, that's the biggest fucking slapping your dick on the table possible. And fucking Usyk's, wants to fight in America. He wants to explore that American audience. He was linked with the Deontay Wilder fight. That fell through. Fuck knows why. And now we're looking at Andy Ruiz Jr. being the guy, the former heavyweight champion, obviously defeated Anthony Joshua. He lost his belt to him, taking on Alexander Usyk. What do we make of that matchup, considering Usyk has those potential contenders to fight and he's picking Ruiz?
I wish that this was an active Andy Ruiz Jr. That's not me saying because I think he'd beat Alexander Usyk, but Andy Ruiz Jr. against Alexander Usyk's probably a fight that never really came across many people's mind. Apart from me, I used to love this fight, and if Andy Ruiz was an active fighter against Alexander Usyk, I'd be fascinated by it. I feel like his inactivity and the fact that we were there live last time out when he fought Jarrell Big Baby Miller, that was a fight that I did think that he was beaten in, and probably a little bit lucky to get the draw there. I think there's two ways of looking at it. From the fight itself, it's one that I'll definitely be watching. I'll be intrigued by it, very, very interested. However, I don't think it's as good as it could have once been. Commercially, I think it's a huge move. Like you say, in terms of going and taking a name, slapping your dick on the table and saying, right, I'm here and I've got the biggest name potential potential I could have got, I think is a big move. I don't think that Usyk commercially reflects exactly just how good he is, but I still think it's probably a bigger move that they could have done right now. It sets a precedent moving forward. My concern would be the track record, because when Eddie Hearn went into America, for example, right, I thought it was risky for was it Vargas that signed with him? Definitely Devin Haney as well. Two world champions that signed with him. I thought it was risky for that to happen, right? Because he didn't have that proven track record in America. What he did have is a proven track record of managing world champions. 10 to 15 he had probably had by that point. Dana White doesn't have that. Dana White is a huge, huge name, but to slightly go back against what you said there, Brian, he has made comments about boxing. He has spoke about boxing for about a decade, and there's been probably 3 or 4 full storms there when he said he's coming into boxing. That would make me a little bit weary if I was a fighter. So I think that it's exciting, but I don't think that this Dana White journey is going to be smooth sailing. I think he'll have to learn a lot.
What we have to remember is they have switched scripts. I remember when Eddie Hearn will talk about get the money, this, that, and the other, and talk about how fighters are not getting paid enough. I heard Eddie Hearn talk about Paddy Pimblett and Gahey's money that they received and how it was a disgrace and how they should be up in arms. I've never seen that. Usually they're like, mate, all the UFC guys come over here and get paid. Now he's saying, well, they're not, like, when you look at what's going on, it's telling a lot. And
Eddie's
Dana's
trying to
here
fuck
and he's
Dana.
not going anywhere.
Eddie's trying to fuck Dana but what he's doing is, see, Eddie initially was like, you can't pay boxers what you pay MMA fighters, so this isn't going to work. Now, Dana, this is how strong the TKO brand is, like UFC, WWE partnership is. They got a $100 million Paramount deal without even really having a product, a proof of concept. They just got it.
Yeah.
That's how trusted they are to deliver. So he went and got that without even putting a show on yet. That is seriously impressive when you compare, the level of money that maybe Matchroom and Queensbury and how long they've had to work to get that level of money. So he's got that, and Eddie's now seeing what he is paying these boxers, and Eddie's wanting to draw attention to it, to the UFC fighters, by going, you want to say what he's paying the boxers, by the way, because you lot should be up in arms about this. And I like that Eddie's playing dirty. It makes it fucking really exciting and entertaining. And if they do sign Alexander Usyk, it does hype the competition up massively. But just going back to the Usyk-Ruiz thing, the hand speed of Andy Ruiz is what I want to see Usyk have to figure out. And as much as I once upon a time I gave a lot of criticism to Tyson Fury for taking on Derek Chisora, who I didn't think was a viable contender at that point because he'd already beaten him twice. And I do think the champion should really fight the number one contenders. When you're fighting a former champion who, is still, in my opinion, worth having on your CV, I don't hate it. I want to say it, and I think the hand speed is going to be exciting to see how he deals with it. But I then do want to see, if Usyk continues to fight, well, you got to fight Fabio Wardley or, any other top contenders if you're going to carry on.
Just quickly as well, one of Andy Ruiz's last fights, obviously the last one was against Jarrell Big Baby Miller. Before that was against Luis Ortiz. So I know Luis Ortiz is 150, but at the same time, he had Luis Ortiz on the canvas twice, and Luis Ortiz is still a tricky southpaw, albeit nowhere near the level and the agility of an Alexander Usyk. So I think it's massively interesting, that fight. I think that the one hole in it is the fact that I don't feel any boxing fans will be feeling like they've got an active and ready Andy Ruiz going in. But I feel that all of us remember the biggest upset in pretty much a lot of our conscious lifetimes was caused by Andy Ruiz. So we should all have that in our mind going into this fight. It'd be a fucking Hollywood movie, by the way, if Ruiz did that. Imagine that. Mate. Pulls off the biggest upset ever, Madison Square Gardens, June the 3rd against Anthony Joshua, and then 10 odd years later does it again against Usyk. That'd be mental.
He's got an ability with that hand speed that makes him dangerous. Right, moving on. We've got a couple of things to catch up on quickly. Derek Chisora versus Deontay Wilder, confirmed by the looks of it. Misfits Pro Boxing on Sky Sports. Like,
What?
What's going on?
the fuck? Like, and to be honest, I know a lot of people will have made that comments about Deontay Wilder and why he shouldn't have fought Usyk because, you know, he's had a few rough performances, to say the least. And Chisora, you know, is getting older and he's in the later years of his career. But I like this fight a lot, actually. I think this is a really fun matchup, and I will be excited to watch this. What do you reckon?
Absolutely. I think in terms of this stage of the career, I think it's absolutely perfect because we know Wilder's way past his best. Had this been a few years ago, I would have been really scared for Chisora, but at this stage of his career, I think it's perfect. And, you know, even for Chisora, he was going to be fighting the likes of, you know, other lesser names. For his 50th fight, I think it's perfect. I think it's great. And I am excited because I think stylistically, I think it'll be a great fight. I really do.
This? Go on, KJ.
What I think happens in this one is both have so much to gain from it. If Chisora wins this fight, we're saying, well, 50 fights and what a name. He's not signing off. He's going to fight till like 53, 54 fights.
He might get
Tyson Fury.
But for what this does for Wilder, though, Wilder now, because he's a name as well, he's still a draw. Wilder wins this fight, we're back on the road. He spoke about his family, his missus.
If he wins this, I want Wilder AJ.
Well, everyone, I think now he's now back in the mix. Those guys, the one thing we've learned about today in this show is the main men are still the main men. It is still the Wilder AJ Fury show.
What are you shaking your head for? What are you saying?
Chance. Listen, I'm gonna call it now because I'm very, very confident on this. Hopefully, well, not hopefully, I'm not on the undercard. Hopefully, Misfits get me on the undercard and have to shit myself for saying this. But Deontay Wilder is shot to pieces. I stood next to him. The man looked like the nightmare before Christmas in his suit. He has nothing on him. He looks like a skeleton. He's shot to pieces. A man like Derek Chisora is not going to be scared of Deontay Wilder.
No way.
And when you take away that fear factor, I think a lot of it's gone, mate. I saw him do 3-4 rounds against Zhang. It's not there. It's gone.
The explanation for that, and we'll quickly move on after this. The explanation is he was going through a lot. He was going through a divorce. He's been to hell and back, actually, in his personal life. So there is the potential that might have taken a toll on him. We'll see. One fighter we haven't mentioned who is in the mix, and just a little bit of news. Daniel Dubois reunited very, very quickly with Don Charles as trainer after firing him. Basically, it looked like Don Charles got the blame for that Alexander Usyk performance. Just quickly, lads, what do you make of such a quick turnaround after he went to a different gym and now he's gone back to him already? Why?
I think it's plain and simple. Tony didn't want him because his dad, like Tony's a no bullshit type of guy. And then you've got Daniel Dubois' dad trying to, you know, have his say in training. And I think, you know, there's full of big characters in that gym, the likes of, Ben.
Conor Ben and Nigel Ben's in there. And Nigel Ben's not running the show for Conor.
Yeah, exactly. You know, a massive star like that, if he can't do it, why is Daniel Dubois' dad going to be able to?
Exactly.
And I think Daniel needs to be the top guy in the gym, and he wouldn't have been in that gym. He wouldn't have been the number one priority. And I think he just realised not many people are going to put up with the bullshit that Don Charles did. I think it's as simple as that.
So they've just gone, we needed the yes man back. Let's go back to the yes man.
And, you know, I don't want to just, you know, I don't like that statement because I don't think Don Charles is just a yes man. I think he is a good coach and I think he's good for Daniel Dubois. I think the work, he understands him on a mental level. I think they're a great pair because in boxing, yes, you have all different levels of coaches, but sometimes you have a fighter and a trainer and they just work and it's gold. And that's what I think it is with them two.
What about him pushing him on stage? What about, how do you get past that?
Yeah. That's a good point. So there's the memory that we have of Daniel Dubois pushing Don Charles. There seemed to be a massive lack of respect there for Don Charles. And I think that's part of the problem here is I think the situation with Dubois and his dad and the way they treat this coaching setup as if it's, you know, we're all sort of here to give our ideas and there isn't one voice leading the way. I think that's exactly why Daniel Dubois did worse in the rematch against Alexander Usyk than he did in the first fight.
Yep.
It's because he hasn't fix the holes in his game, and the reason is because he won't, listen. In everything has to be their own way. Whereas if you get a proper trainer in that situation, the holes in your game would at least look somewhat better. They don't look any better. They might even look worse. Yes, I think Don Charles has done a good job in making his skills, what he does well, better. But the things that were worse, that really needed fixing, have been unaddressed because his dad's in charge.
I think some of the issues with Daniel Dubois potentially aren't ones that are going to be fixed during his career in terms of how he gels with trainers, the relationships he has with them. I do potentially, this is just an observation, I do think that Daniel Dubois may be a little bit mentally shut off to new trainers in terms of like, I don't think you're ever going to get an Adam Booth tap into the mind of a Daniel Dubois like he does a lot of his fighters, right? So I think that the fact that it from the outside almost doesn't work with Don Charles is kind of why it works in a weird way. This is the thing that makes me think that, one, it was unexpected, and two, it makes it hard to get my head around, right? Don Charles is on TalkSport 4 days, maybe, before this is announced, 4 or 5 days before this is announced. The way he's talking about Daniel Dubois isn't the way you'd be talking about someone that you're about to link up with. Not saying he was slagging him off, but he wasn't really talking about
I know
it.
what you mean, yeah.
He was distancing himself a lot from what went wrong in the Usyk fight. In essence, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, I can tell Daniel what to do, but if he doesn't do it in that moment, that's not on me. And what he said was that when Daniel Dubois had an opportunity, when he potentially had that little chance to get Alexander Usyk, he didn't let his hands go. And what Don Charles said was, I told him to let his hands go. So you can only ask the fighter in that situation. Now, the way you're speaking there doesn't necessarily indicate to me that you're about to get back with that fighter, because I think you'd take more blame. I think that we'd all agree that, and this isn't me slating Don Charles, but I think we'd all agree that Don Charles very much felt aggrieved that he probably didn't get the amount of praise he felt he deserved during the brilliant run that Daniel Dubois
made that clear, yeah.
You made that clear. So if you wanted the praise, unfortunately, when your fighter loses, you will have to take the criticism. You will have to take that. So
Don Charles,
I think it's going to be a rocky road moving forward, but I just think that it's a case of pick your poison, and this is the poison that might work for Daniel Dubois.
even though me and Don Charles are not on the best of relationships, yeah, I'm telling you lot right now, Don Charles is the best thing that ever happened to Daniel Dubois. Literally,
That's
like
fair.
in terms of how the calmness and how he brought out personality in Daniel Dubois.
I think
Daniel
he really
Dubois
helped his belief in winning
he
as well.
helped him. He helped him
to not
And-
when it got tough, you know.
Yeah, and yes, his dad has always been there. But what happened is his dad became a bigger voice than he needed to be. I remember Turkey telling his dad to sit down at like fights that were at. You know, his dad was just, his dad kind of believed that it was him and not Don Charles. And what they've done on this journey where they've gone into different gyms is the dad's voice is still there and it's not the same anymore. And there's certain liberties that were allowed. The party, let's never forget the party. Don Charles did not want to throw that party. And they thought, we're going to do exactly what we want.
We're going to do it anyway. It was like, wasn't it? It was, they didn't give a fuck.
They didn't give a fuck.
I hope that this is a weird thing, right? But you know, when you're in a relationship with a chick, you bin her off and then you ask her back and then she's like, well, here's my fucking terms, motherfucker. Like, I hope that Don Charles has had that moment where he's gone, I need to be listened to more and you need to shut the fuck up more. You know what I mean? That sort of thing with the dad situation. We'll wrap it up there, lads. It's been a fucking good chat here on The Pain Game. Don't forget to check out the boys' channels, Lawrence Oswecki, Boxing, Joy Night Boxing, and the Undefeated podcast. Big love to the lads. Thanks, boys. Appreciate it. Cheers. Hit the like button, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.